It's like Jorge said, it's of little benefit to remove bans of specific non-citizens if they can't even move forward with interviews to obtain those visas. Hello, everyone. The Biden administration hit its first 100 days in office, and a panel of immigration experts, including the former director of USCIS, met to discuss how well Biden has been holding up his end of the bargain on immigration promises. The panel was organized by the American Immigration Lawyers Association, AILA, an organization of which I am a proud member, and consisted of immigration lawyers and government officials who were brought together to summarize Biden's accomplishments and make recommendations for moving forward. Today, we are going to hear what these experts have to say about the Biden immigration policy changes and the impact they have had on USCIS, the State Department, and the Department of Justice and U.S. Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement. We are going to cover all these details right now, so make sure to stay tuned until the end to see how this may impact your case. Also, please make sure to like this video so that others on YouTube may find it. And if you have not yet done so, please make sure to subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell so that you're notified every single time I release a new video on immigration news and go live. So, how has Biden done in his first 100 days in office? Upon entering office, the president inherited an immigration system with more than 1,000 harmful immigration policies that had been implemented by the former administration. Former President Trump had already built an invisible wall around immigration by introducing policies at every level that were designed to prevent immigrants from accessing benefits and completing the application process. When the pandemic hit, Trump used COVID as a pretext to implement policy changes that his administration had sought for years, including travel bans and the suspension of visa processing. During his first few weeks in office, Biden took actions to start dismantling this invisible wall by issuing his own executive orders, rolling back policies such as the USCIS fee policy and the public charge rule. He rescinded the Buy American, Hire American Act, or BAHA, ended the travel bans, and instructed agencies to identify barriers that would impede accessibility to immigration benefits. While that may sound like a lot, it is important to remember that most of these policies were actually designed to just reverse the harmful policies that Trump had made effective. The ambitious immigration reform Biden proposed in the U.S. Citizenship Bill of 2021 will require meaningful action to address the ongoing hardships experienced by immigrants and their families. So, can we say that Biden is doing a good job? On Thursday, April 29th, AILA brought together a panel of 5 immigration experts to look at Biden's performance in each of the key immigration agencies in order to answer this very question. The panel consisted of members of AILA National, the American Immigration Council, and former USCIS Director Leon Rodriguez. Let's hear what they have to say about Biden's accomplishments, starting with USCIS. According to the panel, Biden has taken significant steps to reverse the damage done by Trump-era policies restricting immigration. In addition to addressing the USCIS fee rule and public charge rule, Biden has let the H-1B visa ban expire and reinstated the USCIS deference policy. He also removed barriers to naturalization by reinstating a more fair civics exam, among other things. Before these changes were made, USCIS was deliberately slowing down immigration applications through Trump-era policies. Between fiscal years 2014 and 2019, case processing times had increased by more than 100%, resulting in many individuals falling out of status, being separated from their families, and losing their jobs. The work is not yet done. Despite Biden's efforts, USCIS is still running slowly. Citizenship applications, which should only take around 5 months to process, are currently taking around 16 to 22 months. Former USCIS employee and AILA Government Relations Director Sharvari Dalal-Dani explained the situation and laid out the changes that still needs to happen.
USCIS processing times remain at crisis levels, and many of the detrimental policies that have led to unlawful and inconsistent adjudications are still in place. USCIS must take steps to reduce these delays by rescinding these policies and streamlining the adjudications process. This can be done by retraining and properly staffing adjudicators, adjudicating related cases together, requiring biometrics appointments and interviews only when necessary, reducing unnecessary requests for evidence and arbitrary rejections, and fully implementing the Emergency Stopgap USCIS Stabilization Act to help improve processing times.
How about the Department of State? As previously discussed in my last videos, visa processing at U.S. embassies and consulates is at a record high. The Trump travel bans and suspension of routine visa services resulted in a 94% reduction in the number of visas being issued abroad between January and May of 2020. This led to a loss of over 100,000 visas for family and diversity categories last year. Between 2019 and 2020, the number of non-citizens obtaining green cards through family categories dropped by a staggering 40%. Jorge Lowery, the director of policy at the American Immigration Council, explained what President Biden needs to do in order to reverse these policies.
While the Biden administration has taken a number of important steps to reverse these trends, there are critical changes that they should turn to immediately in order to prevent an even greater reallocation this fiscal year. So the Biden administration obviously rescinded the Muslim and African ban, the COVID-related bans, but it has yet to make significant progress in restoring visa processing around the world. 76% of embassies and consulates had either not resumed visa processing or had only done so partially at the beginning of this month. And the latest data reveals that while visa processing did increase last month, it still remains at just 2/3 of what it was last March when visa processing was initially suspended. Fully restoring visa processing is a critical and necessary step in eliminating the virtual wall that Trump and Stephen Miller erected to accessing the U.S. immigration system. It's of little benefit to remove blanket bans of specific non-citizens if they can't move forward with scheduling interviews to obtain visas to ultimately come to the U.S.
In addition, the Biden administration could take steps to vaccinate its consular staff in the same way DHS has prioritized vaccinations for its own frontline workers. This would allow embassies and consulates to safely resume normal operations sooner rather than later. They could also do things such as automatically extend the validity of expiring visas from within the United States and waive certain in-person interviews for the sake of efficiency. It's like Jorge said, it's of little benefit to remove bans of specific non-citizens if they can't even move forward with interviews to obtain those visas. Next, how about the Department of Justice? Former President Trump was able to appoint more than half of the sitting immigration judges and essentially transform the courts into a slide into deportation. He also made them much less efficient. From the time that President Trump took office, the court backlog doubled to more than 1.3 million cases. Despite this, the Attorney General has yet to announce major policy changes. Greg Chen, the Director of Government Relations for AILA, explained what Biden needs to do in order to reverse these harmful policies and why it is so important.
To make the courts fair and more functional, it's really critical now that President Biden rescind a number of opinions that were issued by his preceding attorneys general, Barr and Sessions, and also to address regulations that were put in place that collectively strip immigration judges of essential fundamental powers they need to effectively manage their dockets. In addition, there were several of these kinds of regulations and also opinions that undermine U.S. asylum law and due process. Why are these kinds of changes so important, and why is it so important for the Department of Justice to lean into this? Well, more than half of the currently sitting immigration judges, it's about 300 now, that are appointed by President Trump. And the court's leadership itself is largely still dominated by his appointees. The failure to act in this area would allow the entrenchment of the previous administration's practices, which resulted in an escalating level of numbers of cases for asylum denied by the courts, which has reached the highest denial rate in history of 72% in 2020.
To put that into perspective, the 2012 asylum rate denials was less than 50%. So, in order to properly address the court backlog, the Attorney General must not only restore the authority to judges, but also review the 1.3 million case backlog that is clogging the courts. it is estimated that about 700,000 low priority cases could be taken off the docket, allowing immigration judges to address more urgent cases. In his defense, President Biden has requested that Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas and the Attorney General issue enforcement priorities, but the Department of Justice has yet to do so. Finally, what policy changes have been implemented with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement? Over the past 2 years, detention rates by ICE has increased from an average of about 7,000 people detained during the mid-90s to 50,000 people detained per day in 2019. Last year, detention numbers dropped considerably and are currently at around 14,000 people per day. The Biden administration should take aim to continue reducing these numbers to where they were before they spiked, which is around 7,500 per day. In my opinion, they should get rid of them completely. Unfortunately, the president released his budget for 2022, and it showed no signs of reducing detention and deportation funding. He also didn't fulfill his pledges to stop using for-profit facilities used in family detentions. He did attempt to pause deportations for 100 days, but a Texas court blocked this order, and the administration has not chosen to fight this decision. Biden did issue new DHS and ICE enforcement priorities, but reports indicate that local offices have been slow to act on them. During the panel, Aaron Reichlin-Melnick, policy counsel at the American Immigration Council, explains what the most recent developments have been with ICE.
That's why we can say that the Biden administration's record in the first 100 days on ICE enforcement is mixed. There have been several positive changes, but they have been slow, and the deportation moratorium that was promised never ended up happening. In addition, detention levels are going up despite the Biden administration's promise to limit detention. That's why we hope when the 100-day review that the Biden administration promised is completed and new, more final enforcement priorities go into effect, permanent changes are made to the system to improve it. But we remain willing to give the Biden administration time to put their changes in effect, but we remain concerned about the Biden administration's failure to move as quickly as we think they need to do, especially with the ongoing pandemic and the health risks posed to people in detention.
New reports indicate that ICE detention centers are hotbeds for COVID, with case numbers increasing dramatically over the last month. Immigration advocacy groups continue to tell the Biden administration not to send people to detention during the pandemic, but the numbers continue to rise. So what do you think? Has Biden been doing a good job on immigration? Leave a comment below to let me know what you think. I will put links in the description to the panel's video on YouTube and to Ayla's written summary of Biden's performance. Know that if your case has been affected by the visa backlog, you are not alone. In addition to the issues that we have just discussed, the Department of State's Bureau of Consular Affairs is currently understaffed and losing billions of dollars while it operates below normal capacity. To better understand what is causing the backlog and what Biden is doing to address it, click on this link to watch and find out more. I will be releasing a new video when more information is available on each of the agencies we have just discussed. So if you have not yet done so, make sure to subscribe to my channel and make sure to turn on the notifications. Check out this video and I'll see you next time.